All right, today I'm doing something that's against my better judgment. I want to talk about a game that I saw at the Game Awards that I, at the time, genuinely thought looked like a cool concept, and that is Intergalactic. It is the new IP from beloved, at one point in time, studio Naughty Dog. Over the last few years, Naughty Dog has, I don't want to say been in hot water. I just feel like more and more people are starting to wake up to the fact that Western studios aren't really giving a lot of gamers the experiences that they've been asking for. And Naughty Dog, based on what happened with The Last of Us 2, is kind of ripe for the picking when it comes to this entire sub-genre culture war that, I'll be honest, for the most part, I try to stay out of, even though I have my own views on it. But I'm sure some of that stuff is going to leak over into this video. It's really annoying to me that I can't talk about a game concept, vibe, trailer without having to just address the huge elephant in the room, which is the fact that this game is being downvoted everywhere the trailer is uploaded, including the PlayStation YouTube channel, the Naughty Dog YouTube channel, which at this point in time has disabled comments, the IGN trailer. Everywhere this game is, it's being ratioed and downvoted to hell. And so before we go down that rabbit hole and talk about my thoughts on all of that stuff, I do want to talk about some of the stuff in this trailer that I actually did enjoy. If you guys don't know what Intergalactic is, it is a new IP from Naughty Dog, which we haven't seen one in over 10 years at this point. And it's essentially a sci-fi third-person action-adventure game. I mean, it's a PlayStation exclusive. Of course, it's a third-person action-adventure game. But the setting is that the world in 1986 discovered a faster way to get to intergalactic space travel. So it's got a lot of like retro wave, synth wave, sci-fi vibes that, in my opinion, is actually right up my alley. The setting for this game, we see the old CRT monitors, the keyboards and the tech are this old school retro tech, the stuff that I would say like I grew up experiencing because my parents had some of this stuff at the time. I obviously was born in the early 90s, so I missed a lot of this stuff, but like it was still present around my house growing up. It's a very cool setting for a video game. I'm obviously a huge fan of sci-fi. Intergalactic space travel is my jam. And the premise is that you're playing a character who is apparently the pilot of a ship, a bounty hunter, who gets stranded within this planet that has basically gone dark for hundreds of years. And you have to, I guess, get your way out. I'm guessing there's going to be a mystery that you have to solve there. The premise of the game is very, very cool. The setting and the vibe is incredibly awesome. They said that they're inspired by Akira, Cowboy Bebop, and old animes, and I think it's hitting a vibe that I resonate with greatly. Now let's get to the bad part. The internet is roasting this game for, I would say, two reasons. One of them I think is completely ridiculous, and the other one I actually think, even though I may not agree with the entire sentiment, there is some merit when you look at the data and the facts of how games in the West are selling when we get into the murkiness. Let's stop beating around the bush. The first thing, which I think is completely fucking ridiculous, is the amount of people that are pissed off at the game for having ads. It's basically a huge billboard for ads. We saw the Porsche logo, we saw the Adidas logo, and if you guys can believe this, people are complaining that there's a Sony logo in a PlayStation exclusive. For me personally, coming from like a shooter FPS background, I do find it ironic. Now, I'm guessing these are obviously two different camps, but like I have a bunch of people in my comment section all the time when a new Call of Duty comes out or when a game comes out that doesn't actually use things like the real gun names or the real gear names, people start to call them out. It's just like, why are we calling this a XM whatever when it's really just an M4A1? Why aren't we using the real names? But then when we look over here, it's like people are pissed off when they are using real life references. When, you know, it comes back to the old days of playing Grand Theft Auto when you can clearly see that this vehicle is a Lamborghini, but it's called an Infernus. Some people like it, some people hate it. I think if Grand Theft Auto ever got to a point where they were using real brand names of vehicles, I think that's pretty cool too. A lot of people were turned off that the trailer showed a lot of these product placements in it. It felt a little tacky to them. I guess for me personally, I don't really give a shit. I actually think it's cool that based in the 1986, future intergalactic travel, we would have a Porsche spaceship. We would have these it kind of just lends credibility to the world a little bit. And maybe for some people that it kind of hits a little close to home, feels a little bit too on the nose. It maybe feels a little bit shoehorned into the trailer. It's something that didn't bother me at all. I actually kind of thought it was cool for like a fleeting moment. And then it's like, okay, there's way more things to think about. The other thing that people are incredibly upset about is the main character's design. Now, dude, I've seen some of the most like horrific, horrible shit said about the main character design. Bald-headed, butch, lesbian, fucking whatever you want to call it, dude. It has been a trip over the last 24 hours. Dude, when I was watching the trailer, as somebody who's like in game development, I was watching the facial animations, the actual like mocap of the character, the amount of detail in the character itself. I was actually kind of stunned at how good it looked. I wasn't even really focusing on the fact that, yeah, she's definitely masculine. She's definitely got a bald head. I didn't even think about why they wanted to make the character look the way that they did. I was just focused on the tech that they were using to make it happen. Naughty Dog, in terms of like visual fidelity, is some of the best in the industry. Before we get into this, I want to run this scene back with the character. I believe her name is Jordan. She's grabbing her coat and she's putting it on, and you can see, like, I was paying attention to the way that the camera moves over here so that they can swap the model in the off screen to the character that's already wearing the jacket. Just stuff like that. When you're in development and you're looking at how all of these other studios are pulling off these immaculate things from a tech perspective, that was the shit I was looking at first. But I wasn't really thinking about the actual character design itself while I was watching the trailer for the first time. Maybe I should have. I don't know. But I've been watching the conversation happen over the last few days, and this is one thing that does concern me about the inevitable release date for Intergalactic, because for me, I like a lot of things that I saw in the trailer, but I do feel like we're in a moment in time when it comes to not only gaming, but media in general, that there is a huge pushback against any sort of what people call woke propaganda, agenda pushing, checkbox checking, inclusion for the sake of checking a box to have inclusion propaganda that the Western studios keep pushing. We've seen the controversy with Assassin's Creed Shadows. We saw the controversy with Concord, a $400 million crash and burn. We saw the controversy with Star Wars Outlaws. We're seeing the controversy with games like Fable. Hell, even at the Game Awards with The Witcher 4, we're seeing people push back against that as well. And it is becoming increasingly obvious to me that it is almost impossible to talk about the AAA space without divulging into the negative cesspool that is the culture war. And like I said, I've tried to stay out of it for as long as I possibly can. And even now, I don't know if I share the same opinions about how the character is designed. What I don't want to see is a character that is designed in a way to push the propaganda forward. And what I mean by that is, when I saw the dialogue written for Dragon Age Veilguard, when it was so like hit hammer overhead, trans this, non-binary that, pronouns this, pronouns that, when the devs feel like it's a necessity to like force it down our throats in-game dialogue and making it a huge focal point of the character, I think that's where people have a huge problem with what is currently going on at these studios in the West. And I have to say, even if it's not a huge problem to me, I didn't buy Dragon Age Veilguard, I didn't buy Concord. I'm not divulging and putting my money where these things are that I'm just kind of looking over the fence like, this looks like a fucking time bomb waiting to go off. I'ma just stay clear of that. But Intergalactic is a game that actually has my interest, but I feel is about to be one of the biggest martyrs when it comes to this culture war, overwhelming negativity that we see online. And I gotta say, like, as much as you can try to ignore it, you can't ignore the numbers. Concord was a $400 million fail, and everybody was yelling from the rooftops that they just didn't like the character designs. Ugly fucking characters don't sell well to gamers. And it's one of those things where, like, you might think it's ridiculous. You might think, just go jerk off, watch porn. Why does it matter? It clearly matters. And I'm coming to the realization that, like, I can disagree with, like, the super angry, like, I don't even want to say incel. I don't even want to insult it. I don't know what it is. I can disagree with that sentiment, but you can't ignore the impact that they're having when it comes to game sales in the West. Dragon Age Veilguard, as much as these game journalists wanted to tell you that it sold so well and fuck the chuds and oh fuck the incels, it didn't do as well as they're trying to tell you it did. When you look at other games that sold around the same time and the player numbers were 10xing what Dragon Age was pulling in for their max player numbers, like Farming Simulator sold an abundant more copies. Concord, $400 million thrown down the drain. And if that number isn't accurate, regardless, a studio got fucking laid off and fired for the blunder that they made. But if you haven't noticed the shift happening, where gamers can sniff out the wokeness from the moment you put your first trailer out, all the way up to the game's release, they follow it. They look for clues to see if this is what these developers are trying to push. And then ultimately, in most cases, it's actually kind of turning out to be true. It turns out that when there's smoke, there might be a little bit of fire. And I'm nervous because it's something that I don't want to take part in. I'm not this vocal, like, she's ugly, I want her to have big tits and blonde hair. I just stay the fuck away from it. But this is a game and a concept and a world that I'm actually really, really interested in. And I'll be fucked if I jump in and have to be beaten over the head about pronouns and social cues, especially if the world is set in the 80s and is trying to be as accurate with the product placement, the Porsche, the Nike, the Adidas, whatever. If they're trying to be accurate, this culture war shit shouldn't be reflected in the story that they're trying to tell if it's set in the 80s. I don't ever recall anybody complaining when I was growing up about Mulan, the Disney animated show, having the big girl boss moment, right? I don't remember anyone ever complaining about Ripley and Alien. They were cool, fantastically written characters that didn't have to shoehorn in identity politics and whatever else. They were just well-designed, well-written characters. And if Intergalactic can keep on that same trend, I'm going to be super happy playing that game. But like I said, in following the culture war from the shadows and watching what people have been pointing out, looking at clues, oh, look at this trailer, look at how they're designing this character, and then when the games come out, it's like, yeah, the writing is shit. These characters are kind of trash. And I can definitely see that there's more on the table for these developers than delivering a good, solid experience. They want to shoehorn in all of this other shit. But here's the thing, because I see a bald woman on screen as the main character, I'm also not ready to jump off a cliff yelling woke on the way down. I hope that Intergalactic doesn't go that way, because if it does, I think the pendulum has swung back in the other direction so hard that gamers aren't going to take it. They're going to yell from the rooftops. They're going to buy the game, review bomb it, and then refund it, and the game is going to be fucked from the jump. And it's just something I don't want to see. So I'm hoping that Naughty Dog, if this is the route that they want to go, knows what they're in for. And that's not to be some sort of threat. That's like more of like a genuine question of like, do we want to do this again? We like, can't we just make good video games that tell great stories again? Does that fucking exist anymore? Does everything have to be wrapped up in culture war bullshit? But here's the thing, I also can recognize that it's not just a Naughty Dog issue. It's a world issue. I don't like when politics come to games in this way where everything is just overwhelmingly negative and we see a trailer that's a minute and a half long and people are already just like at the throat of the... I can't imagine the fucking DMs that these devs have already gotten. And it's just a fucking shame that as somebody who likes to just talk about video games, whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether it's a scam, whether it's a terrible asset flip or whatever the case is, I feel like the hardest thing nowadays is to look at a video game coming out from a studio in the West and be excited for it, because there is always some fuck shit, whether it's microtransactions, whether it's the woke fucking culture war bullshit that's going on, or whatever. It's sad that I grew up in a time where none of this shit mattered. I always reference Mulan because it is one of my favorite Disney movies of all time. The animated movie, not the bullshit live action one. But if that movie, the animated one, came out today, it would be panned across the internet as woke, girl boss propaganda bullshit. When back then, it was just a cool movie that had some cool characters that kicked ass. And I wish we could go back. I really do. I want to say that I'm optimistic for Intergalactic. But truthfully, I'm just kind of sitting here on the sidelines, hoping it pans out, but fully expecting the worst. And when I say the worst, I'm not just talking about Naughty Dog. I'm talking about what is about to be the discussion around this game online. And even if the gameplay is good, I feel, oh God, I am dreading the release already. Even though I'm a huge fan of the setting, the world that it's seemingly trying to put together, the concept seems cool, but holy fuck. Let me know what you guys think down below. I normally try to steer clear of conversations like this because I find that it can divulge and get ridiculous really, really quickly, especially in the comment section. I never want to jump into the fucking fire. We can't talk about it without addressing the elephant in the room, so I gotta give my thoughts on that while also just trying to focus on the product itself. Can we do that? If the game is good, can we just say that it's good? If you know, fuck me. I fucking hate it here. My name is BigFry. Thank you guys for watching. Like the video and subscribe for more commentaries on upcoming releases, mainly in the FPS genre, but sometimes we dabble around stuff that I actually find enjoyable. This is one of those things where I'm not quite sure how I feel. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and I'll catch you on the next one.